All right, let's do a season preview. Let's take a look at what I think will happen in 2024. Assuredly will go wrong. Before I get started, a reminder that I will be at Jimmy's on First from noon to 3 today. If you want to come say hi after I'm finished recording, heck, while I'm recording, I'm sure they'd love you to just tap on my shoulder while I'm in the middle of live radio. Don't do that, but come say hi. It'll be fun. It's opening day. It's opening day, so let's make some predictions. Let's start with the National League because I'm going to finish with the Mariners. In the NL East, I think the order of division will be Atlanta, Philadelphia, Miami, New York, and Washington. I kind of debated the New York and the Miami portion of this. There's clearly a top two. Atlanta is clearly the best team in the division. Atlanta might be the best team in baseball. So much depth in their pitching staff and their lineup. They have prospects that they can move to go make moves if they have to. If the Jared Kelenic experiment doesn't work out, adding Adam Duvall, I think, adds a little bit of safety to that experiment as well, because you could make him a platoon type of guy. But Atlanta's winning this division. Philadelphia might win any other division outside of the NL West. They're really good. They have lots of depth in that lineup, a great top of the rotation. Bullpen isn't great, but certainly not the weakness that it was a few years ago. I think they are pretty clearly the third best team in the National League. They just happen to play in a division with one of the teams that's clearly better. Miami will probably see a downfall. Miami's one of those teams, and there's a couple in baseball this year, who I think are going to be better teams in 2024 than they were in 2023, but with a worse record. The injuries to the rotation already are a little concerning. The lineup is fun, but not very good. I mean, it's not bad, but it's full of what if guys. What if Jazz Chisholm shows a better approach to the plate and stays healthy? What if Luis Arias hits for a little bit more power? That type of thing. Jake Berger, I think, is one of the more underrated players. I just look at the Mets, and that rotation is so sketchy. Who is giving you 150 innings from that group? Luis Severino, maybe. The rest is really sketchy. Lineup's okay, and I think the JD Martinez addition is going to help. I just don't see it being a playoff team. Not with some other teams like clearly being better on paper. So I've got the Mets at 4. It won't shock me if they're 3. It wouldn't shock me that much if they were 5. Sorry, guys. And then the Nationals, clearly. They've got a nice little rebuild going. CJ Abrams is one of the better prospects or better young players in baseball, in my humble estimation. Dylan Cruz is one of the better prospects in baseball. But they're clearly the 5th best team in this division. In the Central, I've got it Reds, Cubs, Cardinals, Brewers, Pirates. This division stinks. It's not quite as bad as the other Central that we're talking about, but it's really bad. I just think Cincinnati has more upside. Now, some injury stuff and a suspension concerning me here, already testing that depth. It's funny, when they signed Heimer Candelario, it was like, why are you signing an infielder? Well, it's a good thing they signed Heimer Candelario, because that infield depth is not nearly as good. Ellie De La Cruz is a star. I think that there may be some ups and downs in the early portion of his career. We've already seen the ups and downs, but he can do an awful lot of things on the baseball field. Spencer Steer is a super underrated player. Really good lineup. I like the pitching quite a bit. Alexis Diaz is a very solid closer at the back end. I think they win this division. Cubs are right there. Cardinals are right there too. That rotation scares the heck out of me. It's a lot of number 4 starters. But I think Jordan Walker is going to make a major improvement this year. You still got guys like Paul Goldschmidt, and you've got guys like Nolan Arenado. Victor Scott's going to be really interesting to watch in the early portion of the season. But I don't think either of those teams is postseason bound. Milwaukee, especially not postseason bound. Well, there's lots of teams especially not postseason bound. I don't know why I was just mean to the Brewers there. Still talent. Christian Yelich, really good player. I'm really intrigued to see what Sal Frelick's going to do this year. Freddie Peralta is still a top of the rotation starter. I like what they're building. I'm really excited to see Jackson Churio, actually, more than Sal Frelick, to be, sorry, Sal, but Jackson Churio is a much better prospect. Be very curious to see how much of an adjustment he needs to make. Guessing it'll be a pretty big one, but they'll be more better than bitter by the end of it. Just not a postseason team when you lose the starting pitching that they do. And the Pirates, another team I think could be better in 2024, but with a worse record. They went 76 and 86 and were very lucky to do so. Very lucky to do so. Building a nice little thing. Henry Davis, Paul Skeens, aka Livy Dunn's boyfriend. There's some talent in Pittsburgh, but it's still a ways away from being competitive. So yeah, I've got the Pirates last in that division. NL West, I've got the Dodgers, then the Diamondbacks, then the Padres, then the Giants, then the Rockies. We went over the Rockies. I wish I could have kept going with the team preview stuff. I'm sorry, not enough people watched. It was just too hard to justify doing. So maybe next year. Maybe if I get an earlier start on it and don't have the smorgasbord of things that happen in my life, maybe we get to do that next year. But the Rockies are just awful. The Giants are the best fourth place team in baseball without question. All due respect to the AL East, who we'll talk about in just a sec. They're good. They're a solid baseball team. I just think there's three better teams in the division, including the Padres. I expect to bounce back. They were very unlucky last year. I expect a little bit of ascension to the mean, for lack of a better term. Fernando Tatis Jr. I love the Dylan Cease addition. That makes that rotation so much better. Some solid young players. Manny Machado, I think, will have a nice bounce back, closer to the 2022 version than the 2023 version. They're not the Dodgers, and I actually think they're not even the Diamondbacks, but I do think that, spoiler alert, this will be a playoff team. Diamondbacks are just being slept on so much, and I get it to a point. No, in a fair world, they are not your National League defending champions, but they're there. And they have so much talent, and I'm even more convinced that they're the second base team in the division with the signing of Jordan Montgomery. Because assuming Eduardo Rodriguez, another player that they picked up, can be healthy, that's a heck of a top four of Gallen, Kelly, Montgomery, Rodriguez, and then you got Tommy Fat, who looked like a real thing in the postseason. Corbin Carroll is a star. I love the Eugenio Suarez trade for them. I think that helps the clubhouse on top of the infield defense so very much. I really like the Diamondbacks. The Paul Sewald injury, and well, boy, do I hate that. Boy, oh boy, do I hate that. That's scary. But there's still an awful lot to like about this Diamondbacks team. And of course, the Dodgers have won. Like, it's easy. I'm sorry. Shohei Ohtani could be suspended for 30 years. And I would still have the Dodgers as the best team. And by the way, just a quick side. I don't think Shohei Ohtani's getting suspended. I just don't think there's going to be enough evidence. Now, as this investigation goes, I could change my mind. But if you're asking me today, March 28th, 7:09 a.m., I don't think Shohei Ohtani's getting suspended. Let's move over to the American League. Let's start in the East. I've got it Baltimore, New York, Toronto, Tampa Bay, and Boston. Baltimore's really good. I'm a little concerned how much they're relying on young players, but that Corbin Burns trade to me solidified that they're the best team in the American League East. That, as well as what happened with the Yankees, which we'll get into in just a sec, but Baltimore's lineup is just loaded with young talent. And then you add Corbin Burns to the top of that rotation. You sign Craig Kimbrell, who, has had his issues, but is a pretty solid closer and a nice little replacement for Felix Bautista. I think that they're going to be really, really good. 95 to 100 wins will not surprise me at all. That's kind of what I was thinking for the Yankees before the Garrett Cole injury. And then you add it with some other pieces in the rotation who are not exactly bastions of health. That's a little concerning. That being said, this lineup is stupid good. If Giancarlo Stanton can be a semblance of the player that he was 2019 to 2022, holy crap on a cracker, are they going to score some runs? I mean, Aaron Judge and Juan Soto hitting back-to-back is chef's kiss. It's so good. I like the bullpen. The rotation depth scares me. I do think Carlos Rodon will be a bounce-back candidate for those fantasy players. He'd be somebody I'd be looking to target early, or not early, but target, because he's falling very far into drafts. I think he'll be much better in a full, healthy season. Here's hoping anyway. Really like Carlos Rodon as a person and as a pitcher. But I think the Yankees are a step behind the Orioles right now. 3, 4, 5, I think could go in any order. 5 is pretty clear to me, actually. I've got Toronto. I'm not going to pick them to win the World Series like I have the last 3 years, but I do think that Toronto is a being slept on team, I think, a little bit. I like that lineup a lot. Vladdy Jr., I think, has a bounce back season, and he wasn't bad last year. He just wasn't the Vladdy Jr. that we were hoping to see in his sensational first full season of Major League action. But Bichette is an underrated player. There's lots of good things in Toronto. I like the rotation okay. I think Ricky Tiedemann being a thing would really help. Concerned by the injuries in the bullpen a little bit, similar to what Seattle has right now. Looks like both Carlson and Jordan Romano are going to open the year on the open the year on the IL, which is not a good thing. But I think they have enough depth to challenge for a postseason spot. On paper, Tampa Bay doesn't look like a playoff team to me. And I know this is a logical fallacy. It's just hard for me to picture the Rays not being competitive, which is such a funny thing to say, just to sidetrack. Because when I was a kid, a teenager, shut up. I'm old. Tampa Bay was it was just a guarantee they were going to stink. They were abhorrent. But really, since 2008, outside of a couple of seasons, they've been really solid. I think what it's going to take with Tampa Bay is, and I'm not going to talk about it because it's a heinous thing. Losing Wander Franco really hurts. Really, really hurts. That is a really good baseball player. Justifiably not playing baseball, by the way. Do not get in my comments. I will just delete the heck out of anything. Free speech does not apply in this situation. It's going to depend on whether or not that Tampa Bay rotation can stay healthy. Because, you lose Glasnow, who, has had his health issues, no question about it. But there's a lot of question marks in there. They do have some depth, in terms of arms. I really like their bullpen. Of course I do. But I don't see a team that can be as good as it's been the last few years. Not on paper. And so when they win 93 games, congratulations, because it just seems to be what they do. And then Boston, Boston has a wide range of outcomes, I think, and I'll be curious to see if maybe they could be aggressive with a pretty good farm system now if they do get off to a slow start. But the rotation doesn't look great to me. The bullpen's fine. The lineup has some stars, but also some question marks. I don't think this team's competing for a playoff spot in 2024. Not the way it's currently constructed. They're not far away. And, how nice would it be to have a Mookie Betts or someone of that caliber? But, you had Mookie Betts. And don't get in my mentions telling me that they couldn't sign him because he literally told you, and I believe Mookie Betts more than ownership. But I think Boston's clearly the fifth best team in this division to start the year. Could finish third. Can't see him catching up to the Orioles or the Yankees. I guess we have to talk about the AL Central. I'm going to go Minnesota, Kansas City, Cleveland, Detroit, White Sox. The White Sox are awful. We talked about them in the preview. They are just a reprehensible baseball team who have some nice young talent in the minors, which is a weird thing to say for a team that did not for a very long time. But yeah, awful. Awful team. Would not be shocked if they challenged for the worst record in baseball. Detroit is on its way up. Tariq Skubal is an ace as long as he can stay healthy. I think Riley Green and Spencer Torkelson are awesome building blocks. I think anybody but Chicago can challenge for this division. Anybody can. But I think Detroit just doesn't quite have the depth of the other teams. Not that I think the other teams have super depth or anything, but I think it's the weakest of those teams outside of the White Sox, so I got them fourth. Cleveland, if the pitching staff can stay healthy, can win this division, no question. But I saw some real regression from Shane Bieber last year that suggests to me that they are not going to get the same Shane Bieber or anything close to the Cy Young version of him. That lineup is not good. Even with Jose Ramirez, who is seemingly always an MVP candidate, I just don't think they're going to score nearly enough runs to be competitive for a playoff spot. And then Kansas City. I love what Kansas City did. I love it. Because they're starting from so far back, I don't think they can compete for a playoff spot this year. Well, compete again. I don't think they can compete for a wild card for sure. Like, I don't think they win the division this year is what I should say. No edit button. But I really like what they did. And I love Cole Reagans. I think he's an ace. I think that he has a chance to be one of the best starters in baseball in a few years, if he's not already. His stuff is so good. And the improvement in command is just massive. For a guy who was a top prospect and then missed some time, and sometimes these things just do take time. Bobby Witt Jr. is a star. I think that lineup's underrated. I think I want to mention the name Vinny Pasquantino just because I like to say Vinny Pasquantino. They're pretty good. I would not be surprised at all if they win this division. And the Twins there's just enough talent for me to call them the best team. Pablo Lopez is a very solid top of the rotation arm. I really am hoping for a nice season from Byron Buxton. He comes into the year healthy. Let's see how long that lasts. I don't say that to be glib. I've seen it too much. One of the most talented players I've ever scouted. But the injuries just have always not allowed him to play to the best of his ability. Love to see the full season version of Byron Buxton. Royce Lewis, I think, is a huge piece for them going forward. Another guy who needs to stay healthy, though. Twins have injury concerns similar to a team that we'll end with. But I do think that Minnesota has just enough to be the best team in this division. What an awful division. Awful division. Band geography 2024. All right, let's close with the West. Here's my order. Texas, Houston, Seattle, Los Angeles, Oakland. Oakland's terrible. They've got some building blocks, but they're terrible. They're still wretched. Still a wretched baseball team. There are some interesting fantasy guys, just for the record, like Zach Geloff and Mason Miller, but it's just a really bad team that has no desire to win. Sell the team. Don't move to Las Vegas. Sell the flipping team. Go away. Go away, owner of the Oakland Athletics. The Angels are awful and would probably be picked last for me in any division outside of this division and the NL West, because the Rockies, maybe the White Sox, they're pretty close. It's just not a good baseball team. Just not a good baseball team. I wish Mike Trout all the best. And we'll see him kill the Mariners for probably the rest of my life, be it watching a live game or just closing my eyes. But it's just a wretched baseball team too. We'll end with the Mariners. I still think Texas is the best team in the division. I get the concerns about the rotation. It's the best lineup in baseball in my humble estimation. And the fact that they are adding Evan Carter, or not adding it, well, kind of adding Evan Carter, for a full season of Evan Carter, adding Wyatt Langford, one of the best hitting prospects in baseball, if not the best hitting prospect in baseball. Not best fielding prospect, but best hitting prospect in baseball. They're just too good of a lineup. The pitching concerns, fine. They will make the necessary moves to make sure that this is a team that competes. They are pretty clearly the best team in the division in my humble estimation. Houston, I still have a notch above Seattle. Just a little bit more star power. Really good bullpen. Really good bullpen now with the addition of Josh Hader. I still like the rotation. I actually like one guy in the rotation a lot, who I'll tell you about in just a sec. I just think it's a little bit better team than Seattle to open the year. But it's very close. And then Seattle, we've talked about it, because we are a Mariner channel. I think that they are a playoff team. But there's such a wide range of outcomes. Wouldn't shock me if they were the best team in the American League. Honestly, say that with zero hyperbole. If everyone stays healthy and plays to the best of their ability, this can be the best team in the American League West. With the significant injury risk that comes with this lineup and the issues that we've seen with the bullpen to start the year, and the fact that the Mariners have gotten off to such poor starts in the past, and you know what? 2024 and 2023 and 2022 and 2021 are not the same thing. They just aren't. Hopefully, hopefully it's more like 2022 than any of those other years, but bad starts have really killed this baseball team. Ever since that year that they went 13-2, it seems like the Mariners have gotten off to poor starts. So if they get off to a bad start, and if they have the injury issues that are very possible, just looking at the history of this ball club, there's a chance that this thing goes really south really quick. But I do believe that it is a postseason team, in part because I trust this front office, not ownership, front office, to make the necessary moves. Maybe not in terms of big spending, but to make the moves if this team does get depleted to keep it in contention. And also, I just don't think the American League is all that good. So the Mariners being a postseason team, maybe not the compliment that it was a few years ago, but I do think it's a postseason team. So in the American League, my postseason teams are going to be the Orioles, the Yankees, the Twins, Houston, Texas, and Seattle will make up your six. Not in that order. Texas, Houston, Seattle would be the correct order. And I have got the Texas Rangers winning the American League. That lineup, getting Scherzer and DeGrom maybe back this summer as well, and knowing how that front office works, knowing that they're going to be aggressive and make the necessary moves, I think Texas ends up repeating as American League champions. In the National League, Atlanta, Philadelphia, Cincinnati, Dodgers, Padres, and Diamondbacks. Dodgers, Diamondbacks, Padres to make the order correct. And I like the Dodgers. It's so boring. It's so boring. But I do think that the Dodgers end up making the World Series. And I have the Dodgers beating the Rangers to win their second world title in 4 years. Yes, 2020 counts. Shut up. Awards real quick. American League MVP, Julio Rodriguez. I just think he's the best player in the American League. There'll be some competitors. I think he wins it. I'm going to go with Framber Valdez as my AL Cy Young. He's been on that precipice. I think this is going to be a chance for him to win a nice little award for him. And then Rookie of the Year, I think people are way overthinking this. I get it. Wyatt Langford can really hit. We saw what Evan Carter can do already. And he's just as talented a baseball player. Evan Carter is my AL Rookie of the Year. I'd be willing to lay down a few shekels if I did lay down a few shekels. NL MVP, I'm going boring, Ronald Acuna Jr. That power speed is just stupid. I thought about Mookie Betts. I think this will be a two-person race. Shohei Ohtani, if he hits like 55 homers, sure, maybe. But I just don't think he's an MVP candidate as a designated hitter. You just have to hit so much. And, he'll be the MVP favorite for the rest of his career as long as he can pitch. But I'll go with Acuna going back-to-back. NL Cy Young, I probably should have thought about this a little bit earlier. I'll go with Zach Gallen. I think Zach Gallen gets it. He's been on the precipice for a little bit too. I think he has his first full consistent season pitching at that level. And then NL Rookie of the Year, I'll go with Yamamoto. I know how bad he looked this spring. I know how bad he looked in that first start against the Padres. That still was spring training to me as well. So, yeah. I have Yamamoto as a prohibitive favorite to win Rookie of the Year. Should he be eligible for Rookie of the Year? That's debatable. I think yes for that stuff because this award is named after Jackie Robinson, and Jackie Robinson played very high-level baseball before he came over to the major leagues. So I think it should. I don't think they count as prospects. I do think they count as rookies. It's just the way I feel. So yeah, that's my preview. It's sure to go wrong. Congratulations to the Rockies and to the A's for making the World Series. What do you guys think? Who is your world champion? Who am I way too high on or way too low on? All that stuff. I'm still going to hit the heart button even if you disagree with me. Yeah. So excited. Again, we'll be recapping every single game this year, starting with tonight. It should be fun. It should be fun. I love opening day.